Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and we're live again with one of our continuing topics on the mindset of life. So we're going to sit here for just a few seconds as usual, giving people an opportunity to log in and participate live. And for those of you who watch the replay, please feel free to leave comments, suggestions, ideas, questions, and I do see those and I just enjoy getting them. So today's topic is attitude. Now, just kind of recapping a little bit for those who have not followed the series all the way through. What we're doing here is we're going over what's called the mindset of life. And the mindset of life is essentially when you take your life operating system, which is mindset, and you live it day to day. It becomes part of your daily routine. It becomes part of the sustenance of life. Only then you have the mindset of life working in your favor. So we talked about the first variable, which was desire, and then the next variable, which was decision. And now we're going to be talking about attitude today. Now, as I alluded to yesterday, the decision process will involve a lot of introspective examination. You have to look at what really matters to you. You have to look at the depth of your emotions and feelings, and really consider what those desires mean to you, such that when you make a decision, that decision is founded on logic as well as emotion. In other words, we've taken the very best of all the knowledge you have within you about that desire, or multiple desires, and you have been internalized it to the point where, yes, this is what I want to do, and these are all the reasons why, and these are the needs it fulfills, such that when you make that decision to move forward, you do it with conviction and clarity and commitment. But the very next phase, which is attitude, is where things start to get kind of interesting. Now, attitude is one of the most important variables of mindset. It is not mindset. And you may have heard somebody refer to a term like you have to have a mindset of gratitude or a mindset of abundance or the millionaire mindset or a performance and success mindset. Those are not mindsets, those are attitudes, and you're going to learn that as we talk about this today. And while attitude is extremely important, it is not mindset in and of itself, because it doesn't really meet the definition of mindset as I have defined it. And that definition that we've talked about a few videos back is really important, because with that definition in mind, you get a good framework for what it is mindset does to you. And then you can differentiate between attitude and mindset. So let's just define what attitude is. These are dictionary definitions. A settled way of thinking or feeling, typically one that is reflected in a person's behavior. So somebody's attitude is visible in their behaviors. You've heard people say they have a wonderful optimistic attitude and a can-do attitude, and you've heard those who say they have a rotten attitude and their attitude towards life is just really moribund, and those are attitudes, right? They are externally visible for reasons we'll talk about, of course. Here's another definition. A position of the body proper to or implying an action. Well, what does that mean? It means that your physical body reflects your attitude in more ways than one. Not just the position that you hold, but also in how it influences your health. Here's the next definition. Truculent or uncooperative behavior, resentful or antagonistic manner. Well, that's the kind of attitude that oftentimes people refer to, isn't it? Well, that guy's got an attitude. Well, the point being is all of these definitions of attitude are very superficial. And when it comes to mindset, when it comes to success as an entrepreneur or anything in life, your attitude is paramount. It is one of the central aspects of mindset. But what is attitude? Well, these definitions kind of refer to, the external appearance of what you're thinking and feeling. Well, what that really is it's the external appearance, if you will, of your attitude your beliefs, your values. So attitude, beliefs, value all come together. So as entrepreneurs, what we want to do, coming out of that decision phase, we've made a decision, we're going to pursue this desire or collection of desires that are all congruent, working together to drive us in the direction we want to go. That then takes us to attitude. Now, attitude is where all of a sudden you're going to start feeling a little something about that decision. You may be excited and elated and just can't wait to get started. You finally made a decision. You've broken through the wall of resistance and you're on your way. Or it pushes back and it says, oh man, I don't know about that. That water might be cold. And oh, I don't know what's on the other side of that ridge. Are you sure you can do this? Well, I don't know. It might take some time. Deep down, something is trying to communicate with you. Those are your values and beliefs coming together to analyze your decision. And that's okay. That's a healthy thing. It means you're getting in touch with stuff that's down below, that's controlling your life. And now is the time to have a dialogue between you, your conscious mind, and the little demon that's sitting down there, or the little angel that's trying to get you to go in the right direction, or is trying to hold you back. Either way, it's a good thing to feel something when you make a decision. If you don't feel anything when you've made that decision to move forward, you might want to go back and dig a little deeper. Okay, so let's talk about attitude. What gives rise to attitude? Now, attitude is kind of a term that I use to collect a number of different things and behaviors that lead you to the next step, which is purpose. That's the very next variable we'll talk about. But here in this attitude segment, what is involved is simply a string of things. You can picture attitude being up here at the top. Picture a pyramid. Up at the top sits attitude. Coming up the side of the pyramid is going to be values, belief, and feelings. These three things lead to the beginning of attitude. Kind of forms your attitude to a certain extent. Now, down the other side of the pyramid are going to be thoughts, actions, and results. All of these things, over here on the left, over here on the right, feed into attitude. And if you understand that, then you can start to take control of your attitude. Let me give you an example. Your feelings are based to a certain extent on your values and beliefs, and those are all based on your experiences. And those experiences come in one of two flavors, either passive or active. And let me differentiate between the two. When you were born, in fact, even before you were born, you were starting to experience sounds. You were experiencing mechanical vibration. You were experiencing temperature changes. All of that correlates in your mind in a passive way. When you were born, then your parents, the environment you were in, the sounds, the various things that were happening in your life, all that is passive programming of your subconscious mind, and it starts to create the values and beliefs long before you even know what those are. And the psychoanalysts, they'll tell you that around about the age of 6, you've pretty much got your values and beliefs set. From that point forward, yes, you acquire some new ones, but it's all about reinforcement of the ones you have. But all of that is passive. That's just what happens to people as they get born, they grow up, they're immersed in their environment, and they move on, and all of a sudden they're behaving in certain ways. That's passive. Active is where you deliberately, either with intent or just serendipitously or just a pure accident or just stupidity, take certain actions that create results, that create a belief or a value. Now you have actively programmed yourself with another belief or value, which leads to feelings, which leads to an attitude, which leads to thoughts, actions, and results. Now, these are two different kinds of programming that you're experienced to. Well, what does all that mean, and why is that important? Because as an entrepreneur, as a human, if you want a healthy mindset that serves you, you've got to get rid of the stinking thinking. You've got to get rid of the inhibits that push back on you. And that's all about reprogramming yourself. So you made a decision. You've got these emotional feelings. You'll want to move forward. You want to bust through the barriers and get on to the next level of purpose, but you got this attitude you have to deal with. There's various ways to program your feelings, your beliefs, and your values. But let's just run through the sequence of what happens here, and then you'll begin to see the elements of programming that are necessary. Okay, so let's say that you have values and beliefs. They're either active or passive. You acquired them over life through the various experiences that you've had. Those give rise to feelings. So when you encounter certain situations, the feelings kind of come up. The feelings prompt thoughts. Now, feelings, attitude, and thoughts is kind of a little circular thing that's going on here. You have a feeling, you think about it, and that entices more feelings, and it kind of reinforces an attitude, or it creates an attitude, and it just goes around in a circle very quickly, and sometimes you don't even know what's happening. So now you have feelings, you have an attitude, and you now have thoughts. Thoughts then give rise to what? Action. The action produces a result. Now that result is going to be fed back to your subconscious mind. Was it a good result? Was it a bad result? It reinforces the values and beliefs that gave rise to the thought that resulted in the action and the result, or did it challenge the values and beliefs? Whatever those values and beliefs may be, they may be values and beliefs that produce a negative feeling, they may be a positive feeling. So that led to an action that got a result. Does that result reinforce the values and beliefs, or does it refute them? Does it challenge them? Or for that matter, is it a brand new set of values and beliefs and programs? So now you're starting to see the tip of the iceberg. You can choose your attitude. You can choose your values and beliefs, but it is active. And there's a passive component we'll get to in a moment, but it is actively with intent that you reprogram your values and beliefs to give you the attitude you need. So here's an example of what kind of attitude do you think you need. In your desire segment, you have identified some things you want to do in life. In that process, you ask, why are those important to me? What is it that I want to achieve, and how am I going to feel when I get those desires, when I attain them? Well, all of that is setting you up for purpose. But you have to ask yourself this question in this attitude phase. What kind of an attitude or attitudes do you need to have in order to become the person who achieves those desires? See, now you're starting to question your attitudes, and even more importantly, you're starting to pay attention to them. Now, here's an interesting metric. It was popped up by some psychoanalysts from way back meaning probably 15 or 20 years. They determined, after a lot of testing and instrumenting people's brains, that when it comes to a feeling that produces a thought that produces an action, that let's say that something happens in front of you, maybe it's in traffic, maybe it's just somebody said something to you, and it invokes a feeling, and that feeling produces a thought that you take an action. Do you realize, according to these scientists, that you have 1/4 a second before you take action on that? That's the average. 1/4 of a second isn't very long. The mind is running through millions of calculations and correlations, and it's producing a feeling, and it's uploading to you, and you're reacting to it in 1/4 of a second. That's really awesome, but it's scary too. But here's the beautiful part of that. If you are aware of that, if you know that you've got 1/4 of a second to intercept some action that you regret, being conscious of that actually gives you more time. Because when you now start to feel, you check yourself. You say, whoa, I don't want to get into that 1/4 of a second window. I'm going to back off, take a deep breath, and think about this. Why? Because when the attitude arises that causes the thought, the action, the result, you want the result to reinforce the attitude that moves you forward, not the attitude that drags you back. So when you identify those attitudes that are consistent and congruent with the person that you need to be to acquire those desires, now you have a conscious, intentional target that you can start to believe in and act. If you show up at work the next day and all of a sudden your attitude is 180 degrees different, you're positive, you're optimistic, you're helpful, you've got an attitude of abundance, you believe that everything is possible, whereas the day before, you had a dark cloud hanging over you and everything was terrible and nothing could be done and this world is just a bad place for anybody that isn't dead, and you show up the next day looking like a ray of sunshine, congratulations. You'll shock a lot of people and you can look at them and say, you know what, I took control of my attitude because I'm going somewhere, and that somewhere isn't here. Well, that's just an example. But the point being is you can take control of your attitude once you identify what it is you need. And then how do you really figure out that attitude? Well, you can go out and you can look at people who have already done what it is you're trying to achieve, or you can even dream about it. You can even speculate on what that person must be. And what would you look like when you had some attitude? Then you start acting the part. You put that attitude in place. The thoughts begin to go with that attitude. Your actions begin to reflect the attitude. The results you get from those actions feed back to reinforce this new attitude. And now you're overriding your old attitude and beliefs and feelings. Now you're on your way to setting yourself up for success. I'm not saying that this is an easy process. It can go on and on for weeks, for months, but the alternative is not very pretty. If you don't have a serving attitude, if the attitudes you possess are not congruent with where you're going, you need to replace them. And you know how to do that. You act the part. Now, there's people who use affirmations and afformations, and all of that is active reprogramming. And I encourage you to look at it. If you don't know what an affirmation is, that's when you put an affirmation in the form of a question. For example, if you're using one of the mantras like, money comes to me easily. That's a favorite one of me in the wealth community. The affirmation version of that is, why does money come to me so easily? Because the mind likes to answer questions. Well, however you choose affirmations, the bottom line, or I am statements, those are the other powerful way to reprogram. But here's the deal. You can sit around and say I am statements all day long until you're blue in the face. And that's going to have an effect. But when you start coupling that with the attitude that reflects those I am statements, and you act the attitude, now you're accelerating the reprogramming of your values and beliefs so that you are now congruent with and consistent with where you need to go. Now, why do some people struggle with this? In part, that they don't try, maybe. But here's another part, and this is nothing new, to be sure, but you've probably heard the old saying that you become the average of the 5 people you hang around with most. Well, that's kind of a generalization, kind of a commercially digestible form of the concept. But here's what that really means. You become the average of the most emotionally and intellectually intense experiences that you have. It's not just people you hang out with. It's the emotions that are produced in the process of exposing yourself to an experience. It's the intellectual stimulation that comes from being exposed to experiences. What are experiences? Well, they can be other people, to be sure. They can be videos, they can be books, they can be physical events, they can be relationships, spiritual factors. Point being is what is influencing what you become is how your mind is being exposed to the experiences of life. So when you are challenged to improve or to reprogram your attitudes or to install a new attitude in your life operating system, you have to start considering the environment that you place yourself in. Are you associating with things that don't serve you? This could be people, negative people. It could be the media. Here in the United States, the media is one of the big sources for decline in our civilization. That's kind of heady and big, but think about it. Negativity, uncertainty, drama, all this stuff that distracts your intelligence and your emotions from focusing on what it is you need to do to move forward in life. These are not things you can control. You can control your attitude. You can control your life in that vein what you think about and how you move forward with your thoughts and your actions. These are all within your control, especially knowing that you get a quarter of a second. You can back off and build yourself in an action buffer. All of this is so very important because attitude is what's going to move you forward to purpose, the next variable we'll be talking about. So anyway, back to these experiences. You have to take control of the experiences you put in your life. That's why a lot of people will tell you to read positive material, read self-development literature, expose yourself to positive people, put yourself into nature where you can actually spend some time with your thoughts and not have to worry about negativity. Stay away from media. If you're in traffic, give yourself an extra 2 car lengths, at least in front of you. The guy in back of you may not let you do that, but give yourself all the opportunities to think positively, to remove the negativity and stress, because all of that goes into attitude. Now, in this definition that I read at the very beginning, one of these definitions was a position of the body proper to or implying an action. Physical state supports attitude. So in other words, if you're trying to be focused and relaxed and positive, but yet you're wearing a frown on your face and you're slumped over and you just kind of look like you're, cruising for a bruising or you're looking for a fight, that is defeating whatever you're trying to do with your attitude. So it's not only your mind, but you have to pay attention to your body. You have to put yourself in a position of certainty and confidence where your body feels right. You don't put yourself in a situation where your muscles are ready for a fight when you're trying to focus on being positive. So that's why people say meditate. Get up in the morning, meditate before you start your daily plans. It's just to bring yourself back to some sense of a baseline, to be conscious of your bodily state. So that's something that oftentimes isn't thought about. And that quarter of a second buffer that you're looking to expand, look at your physical state. When you are encountering another person or a situation, monitor your physical state. Are you starting to get tense? Are you finding yourself getting a little bit aggressively postured? Back off. That'll change your thoughts. It'll change your feelings. It'll open the buffer up so that you don't inadvertently squirt out something you shouldn't have done or do something you shouldn't have done, only to regret it and then regress and have to fight your way back again. So this is why attitude is so important. It is absolutely critical to go from decision to purpose. Now, making a decision in and of itself is a really good thing. But that decision, and that was an action, it was a mental action, making a decision to move forward. But you get through this attitude, you get through this stage where now, with the proper attitude, and keep in mind, you don't work on this attitude until it's perfect and then move forward. All you need to do is to be cognizant of what you need to do with your thoughts, how you need to monitor your feelings, and how you need to control your actions so that you produce the right results, reinforce the right attitudes and values and beliefs. You don't have to get this perfect at the beginning. As long as you are thinking along the lines of the attitudes that I need to install in my life operating system to acquire the desires that I have decided to pursue over here, now you're on your way to purpose. That's the next variable. So what does purpose really look like? What is purpose? Well, we're going to talk about that in the next video, but let me give you a preview. There are two terms that are sometimes confused: vision and purpose. In my definition, just to give you the framework, vision is the person that you must become in order to deliver your purpose. Purpose is the external manifestation of that person, the external manifestation of what it is you want to bring to the world, the impact you want to make, how you want to show up, how you want to be remembered. That's purpose. It's what other people experience from you on your journey to your vision. Now, here's the interesting thing. You don't have to start with purpose to get vision. You can come over here to vision and define the person you want to be, and magically, what pops out of that is a purpose. Because you're saying, well, this is the person I want to be. I really feel like I want this in my life. And then you ask, well, what platform do I use to get there? Boom, up starts to pop desires, which leads you to purpose. So that's the differentiation between the two. So when we talk about purpose, we're talking about an externally manifested example of what's inside of you. You see, your attitude is inside of you. The actions that come from that attitude, your facial expressions, your body posture, your actions, your words, all of that stuff, that's external. Purpose is external. It's what you do to make an impact on the world. And it begins by setting up your attitude. Because if you're going to climb the mountain to your purpose, you don't start with a defeatist attitude that it isn't worth climbing that high. I want to find a way around the mountain when there is no way around the mountain, metaphorically speaking. So that's where we're going to be talking about, or what we're going to be talking about tomorrow, purpose. The external manifestation of the vision of who it is you wish to become in the future, that person of your dreams and desires. That's where we're headed tomorrow. So that's where we are going to close it off today. That's kind of a long discussion of attitude, but attitude is so important. And again, it's a conglomerate of beliefs, values, and feelings, actions, and thoughts, and results. All of that is clumped into what we call attitude, because it is all connected. All right. Well, thank you, Gary, for joining. Julie, WJ, and Jimmy. Well, hey, thanks, dude, or Jenny. I'm sorry. I have a kind of a very grayish screen today. I think my video driver is going out or something. But anyway, be that as it may. Again, for those of you who watch the replay, you can ask any questions, leave any comments, ideas, and so forth. All of this is very important when it comes to mindset. And as I said at the beginning, attitude and mindset, they're not the same. Attitude is a subset of mindset. And so if you know that, then you can start to look for what really is mindset. And go back a few videos and look for the title. Over in the video section, you might have to just click on a few because I notice titles aren't under those. And I am moving these videos as I make them. I move them over to Entrepreneurs Without Limits group. I'll put the link in here when I'm done. And over there, at least, there are titles associated with the videos, so you can go right into the videos and find them. All right, well, folks, thank you, Julie. Thank you. And I'm going to log off. I wish you all a very great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be from. And keep a positive attitude. Start thinking about what we've talked today. And we'll be back on tomorrow where we talk about purpose. So take care and live large.